Hi, dear friend, follower of this channel. I have been sending a form to about 100 people, maybe a little bit more, in regard to my pre-research for my bigger research. I had not expected so much response. I got from the people I asked to provide with some information about their thoughts. I had about half of them back. So I get about 50 responses. And I promised everybody to reply on that and give them the outcomes so that they would also have something to show for this. It's nothing more than fair to share information freely anyway. So this is also going to be a public post. I'm going to show you in this post some of the information from this video. And I must say, on the one hand, I'm glad that I'm on the right track with my research. On the other hand, I am so sorry that you are so worried. In case you didn't know, the interview that I asked you to respond to was about 10 questions big, so it was not huge. And I did it on purpose, not too big, for the simple reason that at the university they said if you do interviews with people, if you do send a survey, you don't want to overburden people with too many questions. As far as I'm concerned, I had like 100 questions, and that is just too much for people. And to be quite frank, I doubt if I would fill it in myself, if it would be that much. Although I have been filling in long forms sometimes. As a researcher, you're used to also try to help other researchers with their research. That is a little bit of a trap, because if only researchers fill in your forms, then where do you get? So let me start with discussing the different outcomes from the questions. And after that, we will discuss some of the thoughts that I have as a result of that. And the main thing are some graphics and some open answers that I asked for people to give. I didn't ask too many. Also at the uni, they told me don't let people write too much, because then they will be frightened and they will give it up. And so I only did two questions to give your ideas and opinions by yourself, so that as a result of that, I have a little bit deeper insight in your thoughts. It's a trick, it's a trick. Every form is built up from a particular kind of structure with general information and so on. All the information is anonymized. Although you get an email back with this video link, you will no further be used in the data. The data without the information is going to go to my university as part of my assignment, and I'm going to work on that this weekend. First of all, the first question was, and that was also the theme of the survey, of course, is if you are afraid of the future, if you are concerned about the future. And this is something that I think under normal circumstances would be something that would cause people some worry, or would cause some people some worry. But in the modern case, I think it is a big thing. And I have to say 79.2% said clearly yes. The no was only 18.8%, and the I didn't know was the remainder, so there's like 0.5% or something. So they don't really count. And that means that overwhelmingly, say about 4/5 of the people, they are concerned about the future. And now the other questions are, of course, if they go further than just being concerned. And in the response to the question, do you think society will find a way to avoid future problems? 25% said yes, 35.4% said no, and about 39.6% said I don't know. So that means that people have a great doubt about what will happen in the future. It is more than average for people to don't know, because at the moment when people don't know, they usually have an inkling towards this direction or that direction, but they can't really decide what to expect. And in the case of the absolute no, it is getting pretty close to 50%. So that means that because of the overweight of no over the 25% yes, that most likely the emphasis on no will swing eventually to more than half of the people when people are being pushed into an answer at the moment when they don't know, and you talk a little bit further with them. This is a little bit of an ironic thing when you talk about people, when you talk with people directly, you get much more honest answers because at the moment when you talk directly with people, they can adapt their answers, and you can, if you can make people think about the situation, you can get them to give a more clear response, as long as you stay calm and don't lead them into a particular kind of answers. So writing the questions and trying to not lead the questions, I think this is one of the most difficult things in writing a survey like that. The third question was, do you think your government does inform you enough about future risk? And I must say that the replies came from all over the place. So if they only would have come from the Netherlands, then that would have been very simple about the local situation. I don't know about all the different kind of local situations. I had some replies from China even. I had some replies from the United States. I had from different European countries. I had some replies from Africa and other Asian countries. India also, I had some replies. It is pretty much mixed. I specifically sent it out in a wide range of people for the simple reason that I just like to test the average analysis of this, the average opinion of this. So you can take that in consideration for other people too. But 70.8% considered that their government does not do enough to inform them about the risk that they are posed up. I haven't said anything about what kind of risk. This is just people's own opinion, right? So I didn't say anything about the risks, although everybody knows that my team is the risks that we run because of possible war, energy crisis, climate crisis, environmental collapse, societal collapse, and so on and so on. Not that I'm a prepper, because I don't think I am, but I do agree with preppers that it is good for people in general to have prepared themselves for the eventuality. And our society does not do that. Our society is more a society that thinks like, well, comes tomorrow, probably everything will be okay. And the regulations that are being created in Europe or in America or in any other place of the world are basically rooted in the idea that everything will continue as it is, maybe with some extra cost, maybe with some inflation or whatever, but eventually we're going to stay on this role that we are at, as if this society is going to last forever, this culture is going to last forever. Considering the exhaustion of the planet that we are causing, similar like people who go to the gym and exhaust their bodies, or people who are overeating and exhaust their bodies. This is our basic mentality. So as a result of that, there will eventually always be a collapse. It is unavoidable if you know that you do behavior that is not sustainable over time. And then the fourth question was, do you prepare for future risk for your health? And here about 58.3% said yes. And at the moment when you see this number, that really gives you some hope, right? Because then you feel like, oh, okay, so a lot of people, they actually try to do something help. People are aware of the fact that the future might be risky or that their health in the future might need some support. And as a result of that, maybe they go to the gym, maybe they go, I don't know, walk in the forest, any kind of thing. But there is still 20% who doesn't do anything. And I do know that people who follow me generally tend to take care of their health a little bit better than others. So this is a subjective answer because of the nature of the people who I asked to apply. And you have to understand that this is not the national, international average, because we know also from other research that more than half of the people don't do much for their health in general, except eating according to the food pyramid, and that is not necessarily health. As you can see in the latest food pyramid provided by the United States, that is heavily paid for by the meat industry. And as we all know, meat is like eating Mars bars. It is not going to help your health very much over time. So when we then go to the fifth part, about eating meat, by the way, because there is people who are forced to rely on meat, like the Inuit in Canada, also some tribal areas in Siberia or in Mongolia where people eat already big meat dishes for breakfast and a lot of fat, but that is because they have nothing very much else. They maybe have some herbs, but they don't have an agricultural environment where they can grow a lot of food. They have some, but not enough to create a vegetarian living. I guess if I would go there and live in Mongolia, I will have a very hard time being a vegetarian. Okay, so my fifth question was about what preparations do you actually take? So the positive answer there, we have to nuance a little bit with this, and a few people answered, not everybody answered. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 answers from the near 50. So this is about 1/5. So that's not enough to really base an opinion on, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. I have 3 who basically say nothing. There's one who says, I try to rest enough, eat healthy, avoid stress, and do sports. And somebody said nothing radical, to be honest. And that means that they do some things only half-minded, probably. Then somebody is, they do the Dowland program. So yeah, of course, that is great. There's a lot of stuff in there, but it can still be very much disorganized. So the whole point of the Dowland program is that you learn how to organize your health program. And that is something that everybody then has to take care of course. The idea is that the Dowland program is a self-health care program. So it means that you create choices and opportunities for health through the things that you do over time, that you have learned over time, because you cannot do everything. But if you have learned a lot of things, and like we have about 13 to 20 different kind of activities that we have in the program in essence. So then when you have created variety, you can say, but now I need this. I need the Wudang Fitness because my agility is not good enough. Or I need to pay more attention to meditation because I feel that I start developing brain fog, and so on and so forth. I have to do breathing practice because I lack openness or something. There's a lot of things, and there's different levels. So when people study the bachelor program, they get more choices than people from outside who just generally the program. And the research is focusing on meditation and on the Kung Fu Wudang Kung Fu Fitness, and on the Taoist dietary program and Taoist medicine food program. And there is one who says, I take good care of my health and read about health and food and mental health, which is, of course, considering the space, is quite extensive, but also a little bit ambiguous, because you can read wrong things and right things. It's very difficult to say what is right and wrong. This is what I come across with clients a lot, that they feel that they're doing a lot of things right, but their information sources on which they base that are sometimes not that reliable. Let's say it like that. Although some people, I think they do really very good, and then I sometimes ask, like, but what is then the reason why they still have health problems? So this is a thing. This is a thing, and then one is saying eating healthy foods, having enough sleep and exercise, and I think my battery is emptying. Yeah, I have to take a break. Yeah. I was realizing my battery was giving a problem because the plug was not properly in the wall. So that has been corrected. So eating healthy foods, having enough sleep and exercise is what somebody said. And somebody said, I have emergency funds, health insurance, and regular physical activity. And the emergency funds, of course, you have to understand that at the moment when emergency comes, then you will get a really huge inflation. So for this emergency fund, say that you have 500 euros in reserve, or $500 US. this might be just enough value for a bread, even though the official value might be bigger. But there will always be opportunists who say, like, I have bread, you have money, you give me money, later the crisis will be finished, my money will be worth a lot, now it is nothing. Yeah, so you have to also be prepared to be less easily victimized by how do you call them? Opportunists. Opportunists, it's the right word. That's the right word. Yes, so this is a very important part. Independence is a thing that really needs a lot of consideration. And having always been influenced in movements like the autonomous and well, also in a way in the prepping movement, even though a lot of them are a little bit too right-wing for my care. And a lot of these people, they have obviously too much money, and they think very often in a more materialist solution, and they don't have any real skills for survival. Although some people also go to the forest, learn to eat tree bark and stuff. I don't want to go that far. I think it's not necessary to do that. You will be able to do that anyway when you're really hungry and you're going to try to experiment with what you can eat, because otherwise you're going to die. And a lot of things will kill you over time anyway. So that is part of being nature. That's why people in the past, they didn't become so old. So the thing that you have to do is you have to be fit enough to be participating in rebuilding a society. Not necessarily this one. As far as I'm concerned, a solar punk society probably would be best. Okay, so the sixth question, are you interested in being part of a movement that supports preparation for future risks? And being my follower, whether you are dedicated or whether you are not dedicated and you just every now and then look at my stuff, or you just know me and because of knowing me you decided to fill it in, that doesn't mean that you do not feel like being interested in being part of something, but being part of something very often gives you the feeling of being obliged to do things. And the thing is that what I try to do anyway is try to make you aware of the fact that you can do things, and I offer you things that you can do, but you're not obliged, right? You can do any other way also, or you can just figure it out yourself. It is not a problem. I just think it is important to be aware of these things, and I think if I get far enough with my research, I will advise insurance companies, governments, local and international and so on, to try to reorganize healthcare in such a way that everybody gets from primary school onwards basic healthcare training, so that they can take care of their own health and that they are generally healthy and well prepared for any kind of crisis. And then on top of that, you can have your regular healthcare, which in some cases actually is a good solution, but is not sufficient. But are you interested in being part of a movement? 52% actually, 52.1% said actually that they are interested in being part of a movement. So welcome, my dear friend. If you haven't signed up yet, then go do that today. Okay, and 22.9% said, I don't know, so that they are thinking they probably need good arguments. And maybe this video is a good argument. Maybe if you want, I can help you try to find arguments for either a yes or a no, right? And then there is 25% sharp, yeah, that says no, not interested. I want to keep my distance from everything. Fair game, fair choice. So then I had a more open question, the seventh one. What kind of activities are you interested to take part in? And I will not tell you all the details. 6.3% said other, so that means that they are wanting to do other things than what offered. But mostly the three most used choices were preparing privately or with my family. There was about 58%. There was about 58%, a little bit more, 58.3%, just like the previous one, learning skills to build or rebuild health. And the top was 67.7%, was learning skills to take better care of my health in general. So that is basically also what the Douwland program, of course, offers. And it's not to advertise, but this was, of course, the goal of the Douwland program is to provide these kind of skills so that people can do that. It's not to make a big business. but to make it our business to be healthy and to make sure that society as a whole grows. And that will mean that some people will have to have jobs in this branch and some people not. And that means that, of course, it becomes a little bit of a business eventually. But yeah. I have to say that, of course, 10.4% said I'm not interested in participating in anything. So fair also, of course. That also shows you that the range between wanting to participate and not, you can say that there is about 10% that wants to not participate in anything, and there is a range between 58 and 67%, which is interested in doing something, right? And in the different choices that they had. So you have to see every choice individually, so you cannot calculate all of them, but it is from all the choices. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From the 8 choices, about 3/8, almost half, says that they want to do. There's one other one that is average, between the average and the top, and it's about 45%, 45.8% is learning how to survive in nature. And that is, of course, a very important part. It is learning how to discover food. And that's what the food medicine module actually does. It teaches you from the things that you have in the house, what is their value, what is their benefit for your food, but that is the same skill that you need in nature. Not just to know, like, okay, if I eat this tree bark, I will survive, or if I eat this plant, I will survive, but also how it automatically also medicalizes your food for you so that you have a better health as a result of that. Okay, then my 8th question, and this is where it becomes, of course, more towards my own research. Would you like to participate in research that help people, companies, and government to change society towards a low-cost baseline healthcare? Yes, said 64.6%. So that is a little bit on par with the previous question, of course, also. And that is not meaning that people are not only willing to learn something for themselves and to share within their family or their community, but also to support societal change. And this is what I think is most important, because this is where we have to go to. So the radical standpoint of being able to solve things after a crisis for yourself and your community, to rebuild, this is one thing. The other thing is the societal change that you need to get. So I also have to put this research eventually also in my final paper when I do this. So I will make that part of my research. And then, would you support such research in exchange for learning the courses provided? And this is actually going towards the actual research. And 70.8% actually said yes, and 29.2% said no. And I don't know, maybe it was not in the question, I don't remember. I have to check that actually. But anyway, it is a very clear answer, yes, no, is of course something that doesn't leave any question. So the link that I provide in the letter that comes with this link will help you to pre-sign up, because we're not going to start yet. We're going to start only when funds come in to provide the training, or we will start on a low level when we have sort of a baseline that we can start with if the funds do not come. But I will let you know when it comes to that. So 9A and 9B, there were some people who had, at least one person had a difficulty in understanding the difference between the two. And the 9B question is, how much would you be willing to support your participation per month or for a period of 1 year? And I didn't want to make it into 2 questions. So I said, like, this is the amounts that you can choose from. And this is the other option. You get a discount for everything. So that means that you then agree, of course, with any price that is being offered. In the beginning, I was really surprised because people suggested about 40 euros. And I had said for myself, like, okay, it will probably be about 25 euros per month. That is something that most people can deal with. That is about 5 cups of coffee a month if they go drink outside of their house. So that is not too much in exchange for a better health. About in the end result anyway, about 43.3% said 25 per month, which is, I think, a fair amount in the end, right? So I think I'm very satisfied with that because it shows that the majority wants it to be as cheap as possible. I think that is very important because anything that is expensive is only meant for rich people, and rich people, I'm sorry if you happen to be rich, but you can always pay more. There's not a problem, but you have to understand that 99.9% of the people are not rich worldwide, right? So, and they also need support, they also need health. And that means that if there is enough people participating and the program can grow, that means that also we can send out people going to refugee camps that are already existing or impoverished areas where we can instruct people, teach people how to do these kind of things for free, because these people usually don't have nothing. Like in the Rohingya project that I talked about earlier in another video, I have been talking with people now about the Palestinians also in the Gaza Strip. And I have been talking about people related to Sudan, Ethiopia, all these kind of areas where also a lot of conflicts and refugees are hanging around and that also do not have enough support. And the support that people usually give for that is going to cost millions and millions and millions. And the idea of our program is that these people learn to help themselves by being fit and healthy, and therefore being able to take initiatives to start rebuilding their society. So it is a motivational program then to rebuild their own society in their refugee camps, so that their refugee camps can become new living communities and that they can give up their temporarity because they can show that they can do so much more than just being temporary shelters, and therefore reduce the cost burden on the countries that are hosting them and the international community. I think that is a good idea. So then the 10th question was if you have any additional remarks, things that you like to share that you think are valuable for the investigation. And besides the people who say no, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. One gave me a web archive link for 1 Year in Hell on personal liberty. That is, of course, a terrible situation. Thank you for the link. And I cannot see who gave the link, but I could look it up probably, but I don't want to. I will look up the link though, but I will not look up who sent it to me. There is a few who said no, one said yes, but no answer, and it is taking it very literally. That's very funny. And then somebody said that they hope that this research can help a lot of people take better care of themselves. Number 7, I didn't mark anything about demonstrating because I don't know if it's of any value, which is a fair thing. Demonstration in many countries is a right, and this right is valuable, but it also can be like a valve to show as if you have done something without actually really doing something, just spending some time. The idea is, of course, that if you demonstrate, that government people can see that you're demonstrating if they're interested, and not especially you individually, but as a group, and that there's a lot of people interested. So that means that minor demonstrations are never heard, and huge demonstrations, like with millions of people, they can be noted and either be suppressed or can be financed by the government, like for instance Extinction Rebellion, who is being financed with Dutch and European and whatever kind of country subsidizements. Great people, great actions, making people very aware of their role in maintaining problems. And I've also applied to them for support one way or the other for my research, but they don't reply, and I guess they don't need to. And then that is a little bit of a bummer, by the way, because I had thought that they probably would be most interested in these kind of things, but maybe they're only interested in preventing. They're not maybe interested in resolving things. That is something that I don't know. It is always important, I think, to think in two directions, namely trying to avoid a problem, but also try to think about what to do if the problem cannot be avoided. And it seems at this moment, society-wise, that a lot of problems cannot be avoided. but I hope we do avoid them, of course. Then somebody else said perhaps learning how to build a shelter or making clothes could be helpful too. That is actually a very good idea, and I was already considering for a while to also add experiments that people can do to learn how to make primitive buildings, so that they can practice that before they actually start doing it, and making that as part of the extras in the thing. So actually, because of your remark, I think I will go do that, and if you would like to help me with that, that would be really great. Then the future want for the world starts in me. The future want, I didn't understand the remark exactly, but I do think anyway that it means that the future world starts within yourself. And of course that is true. To start a future world, you have to be able to understand what is good, but for peace you have to negotiate with each other an average on things. So a dictator says, like, this is how it has to be. And one of the nice things that I like about the European Union is that everything is negotiated, and it's a very gradual process, reducing conflict. At the moment when you take that away, you increase conflict, because then you have a lot of different voices which are much stronger individually to defend themselves than when you have a large group that has to discuss things and has to weigh things and so on and so on. And this is the way to go for the future. And in that sense, I think the European Union and the Chinese government, they are at this moment the best forms of democracy that are there, because knowledge and experience and quality is essential for understanding, and not your charismatic lies. You know who I talk about. I don't have to explain that to anybody, I guess. Then there is one in Portuguese, and I have forgotten to translate it for this issue, but it has to do something with money, I saw. So I'll have to translate it later. Or maybe I can put it as a subtitle here. Then I think that worrying about the future is useless, but preparing for a future where the government doesn't exist anymore and our systems collapse and we need to survive without supermarkets is valuable and necessary. That's good. Well, governments, I should probably know if you know me a little bit. I do think they have some use, but it's not that I'm necessarily a fan of them. Self-organization is unfortunately usually only locally valuable, and especially when you want to talk about a longer-term future where you want to avoid long-term conflicts or future conflicts, you have to negotiate with nearby groups, and it means that communities have to negotiate as a sort of a mesh the future. And this is actually where organizations like the European Union, United Nations, the Chinese government, who is actually not that different from the European Union, except that they are only officially one party, but they have still a little space for different kind of opinions. Unfortunately, there is the dictate that it has to be done according to a particular kind of theoretical framework. So that is actually, this is the most, and so I got some compliments. The key is love and knowledge, and so on. These are important. One is more, maybe add the opportunity to inform and guide others to raise awareness for healthy living. Demonstrating is quite radical and demanding. Not everybody's cup of tea. Plus, demonstrating can alienate and informing in local communities. Groups can start a flame that maybe carries further. So add an answer like that. Yeah, these are options. But unfortunately, the interview has been done, and to change now the questions actually would be strange, right? So that would falsify the answers. And I'm very happy with these answers, and I want to thank you one more time. I think... No, actually, I'm very glad that I actually did this interview. I was actually looking up against having to write a lot of interviews for the research as a whole, but most of the interviews are about the exercise itself. The surveys are going to be about the exercise itself, about the program experience. And there will be interviews in the program, and these interviews, they give opportunity to answer questions which are also very often restricted, and give also some opportunity to create space for opinions and new ideas. And as a result of that, I think we gradually will build, also together with focus groups, a consensus between us, a negotiated consensus, which makes us all master of the program. And that is, of course, where we want to go to. Okay, take good care. And thank you for your attention. And thank you for adding to my understanding. And thank you for your wisdom.